Hello, data leaders. This is Les Muller on the Data Leaders podcast. I am your host, and today on the show, I have with me Timothy Lum. Timothy is the head of data and insight at Virgin Atlantic, and he will be speaking at our Data Leaders Transformation Roundtable in March later this year on a very exciting topic about data migration. Tim, welcome on the show.
Hi, Les. Nice to meet you.
And nice to meet you as well, and thanks for coming. And again, you will lead one of the sessions on the roundtable, which will be a pretty interactive session on a very exciting subject. And for those audience members, just before we dive into your specific topic, for those audience members who don't know you yet, can you just tell us a bit about your background and also how you ended up being a data leader over at Virgin?
Sure. So a little bit about my background. I'm a quantitative sociologist by training, and essentially have always been very interested in the way that people make choices, whether or not that's to buy something or to indicate some level of preference around choice of where they spend their money. And for me, it was then from there as a statistician moving into analytics. And at that point in time when I was, in early stages of my career, I was with a digital advertising agency that was natively digital. So a lot of it was big data at that time. And because whilst we had our own technology function, most of the time we had to, as analysts, start to bring our own data to bear to build products for our clients at that time. I learned how data structures need to function and how important they are to play in the analytical side of things and generating insight for the rest of the business. From there, I basically started to lead teams, both in data engineering, business intelligence, and analytics and data science, even though back in the day it wasn't called data science. And prior to joining Virgin Atlantic, I was with Expedia and the Hotels.com group for about 3.5 years, leading a team of such, so data engineers and data product managers, who were essentially there to start to build products for both external reporting, but also algorithmic data science models in order to predict the likely conversion of folks coming to our website. So from there, really, that's how I've become in the position that I'm in. And I really didn't choose to be a data leader. It really chose me primarily because of what I was interested in.
Fantastic, yeah, and it makes perfect sense. And by the way, yeah, I saw that you do have a very extensive background in terms of the different different industries. You worked in finance and so forth. And before, as you mentioned, you were at Expedia. Working in the travel industry, is this a conscious choice for you, or is there anything special in data with the travel industry?
Yeah, I think for me, the travel industry is something I'm quite passionate about, primarily because one, I've lived in multiple different countries across the world, but also because my interest academically really is in the movement of people and transportation in that regard. So I stuck around in the travel industry after leaving Expedia, primarily because it's definitely a big passion of mine, and again, how people make choices of where they go and why they go there.
Fantastic. And also on the roundtable that you will be speaking at, we will cover a range of exciting topics, including embedding analytics across the business, or leveraging AI and machine learning to improve data quality and customer experience, also data visualization, creating an effective analytics portal. And yours is actually a topic that a lot of our members are very interested in. And it's really about having a cloud-first approach when it comes to data. I think it's only suitable for someone who's coming from Virgin Atlantic to talk about the cloud. But why did you choose this particular topic?
Yeah, so cloud technologies really are starting to come into some level of maturity. And the reason why I chose this topic is because it's quite core to what we're going through at Virgin Atlantic. We have traditionally been quite light in terms of how we deliver data across the business here. And we've utilized third parties in order to do so within each department. So in some ways, one of the good things that we have as a part of that strategy is we're not straddled with the big data centers that most people in the progression of their own data maturity have gone through. And for us, now that the cloud is definitely maturing, we don't have to invest the same way that most people have into the data centers. So we can actually leapfrog our business in terms of how we utilize the cloud in order to bring benefits of both analytics and the data itself into the business, and especially because Virgin Atlantic is a small airline comparative to some of our competitors, it's very important for us to be able to efficiently scale up and scale down according to our needs. So that is one of the reasons why I'm supremely passionate about this topic, and why I chose this topic to begin with.
And why do you think it's such an important topic for data professionals today to know more about this and explore best practice in the area?
Yeah, so certainly it's where the world of data is moving. It's already prevalent in our data mindsets and our data arsenal. And infrastructurally, this is where the world is going, right? And we just don't believe in building large data centers anymore that are fit for purpose for a single company. And it's this idea of rent versus buy that it is why it's important. Also, it allows for small companies to really get going in terms of being data centric. Again, primarily because most big companies can afford a data center. Most small companies, when they're starting out, cannot. And so it's here to stay. And as a result of that, it's super important for data professionals to know about what are some of the pitfalls and what some of the benefits of moving to cloud.
Yeah, and actually our members coming both from the larger corporates and also the smaller, more agile companies, they expressed interest in this. And I know that the transition, whether you are a smaller or bigger company, can pose quite a few challenges. I mean, what were some of your main challenges going through that transformation?
Yeah, so we're still going through the transformation, right? Cloud is not a mature technology at all, and no business can really say that we're complete. So we're on an ongoing journey in that regard. I think the main challenge for me and the business overall at Virgin Atlantic, and I think this will be the case for any major corporate as well, is taking the company 5 steps forward. Right. Instead of kind of, that's the whole point of leapfrogging is to do that. Instead of going through your regular cycle of maturity, what you're doing is to shortcut it. And some of the main challenges around that are the fact that, airlines are by nature, essentially waterfall type businesses, right? And cloud by its very nature is not. It's micro, it's iterative, it's agile. And so the main challenge really is about changing the culture of the business to recognize that this is the way the world's going in data, and that we have to adapt some of our working ways in order to really take advantage of this technology.
Yes, and naturally, it's an ongoing journey. And based on what you've experienced so far, what are some of the skills and techniques you think are actually crucial if you are someone who's actually spearheading such a transformation?
Yeah, so as a change leader, you have to be very good at negotiating. What areas of the business will adopt this technology. You'll have to negotiate with your technology team itself, who are the delivery and implementation parts of the business around what and how to work in a new way. So some of the skills that you really need in this space are truly that stakeholder management capabilities that actually quite a lot of data professionals don't have in their arsenal today, and yet also at the same time have an understanding of that technology. You cannot negotiate and you cannot have good stakeholder and social skills that don't combine with an understanding of technology, because you're basically having to straddle both bits and having to bridge that gap between where the business is going, what are the business benefits, and translating that using the terms of technology with your department as well. So you basically sit as that bridge between business and technology in this space, and therefore negotiating, navigating that space is crucial, and the skill sets that are needed in that are all more EQ than IQ, if you will.
Yeah, and then this also leads us to your specific session. So, you know that on these roundtables, we work with quite an unconventional format. So, instead of just, having speakers doing 10, 15-minute presentations, we want to make it a bit more interactive. So, first, you will do a short presentation, maybe 15, 20 minutes long. We'll talk about, your accomplishments and your experiences, working in that space. And then there will be a Q&A and a group discussion where the attendees will discuss how those learnings and insights relate to their businesses. And then we will also summarize the final conclusion. So we will arrive at the key insights. So just in a quick summary, so what will your session cover?
Yeah, so my session will cover the situation before I joined Virgin Atlantic, why we made the decision that we did to move us forward, some of the key lessons and pitfalls that we've already come aground and are having to deal with. And then also basically helping the folks around the roundtables understand where we're going next in our journey and what we're actually focusing on next. So that's kind of what the session will cover, during the summit.
Fantastic. And how do you think that the audience members will be able to, put some of the insights into actions back in their businesses?
Yeah, certainly. I think part of that will be taking this back into their companies to get frameworks on how to move to the cloud. Certainly, we are skipping a stage of the massive data centers that people usually have the data already stored into. So some of the work there will really be about the frameworks, and also some of the pieces there will be about what are some of the pitfalls, and therefore helping them ensure that they don't fall into those same pitfalls as well.
Great. And so not giving away, too much from your session. We are all looking forward to it. But what advice would you give now to people who are working on similar projects? Maybe also, some of the listeners who won't be able to make it in person in London. Do you have maybe one key idea from your session that you think it would be good to capture, or any actionable advice that they could apply in their businesses?
Yeah. So I think if there's one key idea from the session, it would be that even though cloud doesn't cost you as much in infrastructure, you really have to be willing to pay for the expertise, right? Which is essentially looking at your current, folks who help support your data work, and having to bring in a person or two who actually understands the space pretty well. And help having them and supporting them to lead you into the transition. So you may make some savings initially from the infrastructural costs of moving to cloud, but you really have to also invest in the individuals with that knowledge of how to get you there.
Fantastic. It's promising to be a very exciting session. We all look forward to it. And, for those audience members who will be there in March, we look forward to meeting you. And I also look forward to finding out what the group will come up as some of the, key insights and conclusions. And
Yeah, absolutely.
yes, and Tim, I'm also conscious of our time, but before I let you go, I would like to ask you about some of the future trends that you might be excited about today. Are there any particular technologies or trends that you have your teeth sunk into at the moment, apart from the cloud?
Yeah, I think. Yeah, certainly. I think that there is a movement towards end-to-end infrastructure to analytics capabilities now forming in the form of partnerships across multiple different companies. And that hadn't necessarily taken place in 2017. What I'm really excited about in 2018 is essentially where those partnerships could truly head. You know, there are partnerships happening with Microsoft and Amazon. Microsoft and R have already had quite a long-standing relationship together. And so you're merging that that previously big chasm between infrastructure and analytics, right? Data infrastructure and analytics. And so that itself is super exciting for me because previously that the big gap between the two parts of the end-to-end process really requires you to have very different skill sets for those people. And so that's really exciting for me to see. And I'm looking forward to more of these partnerships in 2018 where you see, technology companies teaming up with analytical software companies in terms of bringing a faster data ingestion to output of insights to bear.
Yes, indeed. This is a very exciting area now with a lot of potential. Actually, just a week after your roundtable, we will have another session in Zurich on the 13th. And actually, one of the topics there will be the 2018 European Data Cooperation Initiatives. We have a speaker there from ProSiebenSat.1, which is the largest German media provider, I think, and they had a partnership, a strategic cooperation built up with Zalando, for example, in which they work together on audience-driven advertising, and it's really growing and expanding. So yeah, these are exciting times for every data professional today. And as a last note, what would you advise to new and aspiring data leaders today who would like to succeed in the field?
Oh, that's a really good question. The only advice I would have is that there is such a broad skill set that you need to work in data today. You know, it's kind of like a maturing industry in finance as well, in that, you've got people who are very good at financial planning and analysis, and you've got very good people at treasury type work. This is the same thing also in the data world too today, with very different skill sets, very different mindsets, and how you go about doing best practice. In that regard, the only thing I would advise people on is building the right team underneath them. Right, you have a set of skills today that you're very good at. For me, it's more on the analytical front because that's where my bread and butter was from before. And so the key thing for me moving forward is to have the right people to help me with the data product aspect of things and actually managing the day-to-day aspects of that. That's really where I would say, hey, as a data leader, find out what your strengths are, find out where your weaknesses are, and hire the smartest people you can to cover the weaknesses that you don't have.
Well, that's great advice, and I think that's also a great note to finish on. And Tim, thank you so much for sharing your insights with us, and I look forward to finding out more in March on the 6th. And yeah, Tim, it's been great having you on the show. Wish you the best, and I look forward to meeting you soon.
Sounds good. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Tim.